welcome to TK Sports audio podcast. We're going to be addressing the question from one of the fellow listeners, why Atalanta are so good. I'm going to be with Chris. Let me give you a brief introduction about Chris. Chris is a goalkeeper playing for a team in Pretoria at a very good level. He's a very good goalkeeper in his own right. So he's the one who's going to explain from a tactical perspective why Atalanta are so good. So now I'll be giving the floor to you, Chris.
Thank you, Tanashi. Thank you for having me on TK Sports. All I can say is it's a small team with an average age, I think, which ranges about maybe 25 to maybe 27. Quite old. You know, it's not really young players. Maybe the youngest might be 24. But it's the ability of Gasparini, 62-year-old coach from Italy, who has managed to bring such a unique set of players to be able to knock the ball around and become a good team.
I understand. It's really intriguing from that point of view. So if you are to take us through the way they play, especially maybe starting from the build-up, how they build up with the ball, from maybe goal kicks or set pieces from their own half.
So they set up with 3-4-1-2 formation. But okay, on paper 3-4-1-2, but within the game it includes a lot of overloads, a lot of rotations. You know, you have so maybe just to start off, you have maybe Golin in goal, then you have Toloi on the right centre back position, Palomino on the centre back position, then Jimsty on the left back, centre back position, Castagne left wing back, Furla and Durun will be workhorses in the middle, Hatabo on the opposite side of Castagne as a right wing back. Then in the hole on the cam position you have Gomez, then you have your two strikers as Zapata and Ilicic. That makes it a 3-4-1-2. So play usually they play, I would call it balanced football. It's not really possession, it's not really counter-attack, it's not really a possession game, but it's more of wherever there's an opportunity, then we go for it. So usually, because of the height they have, sometimes if they're under pressure, they can go long searching for Zapata, but sometimes they are comfortable on the ball. That's one key, I think, aspect of Atalanta. Quite good on the ball, so the centre backs stretch the pitch. You know, you have your one in the middle, one on the edge of the box, one on the other edge of the box. Then you have Hatabo and Castagne halfway through the pitch. Then Ferdinand comes short. Then Gomez comes into that central position and helps, with the numbers. Basically, that will be in the first third. That is your defensive third. Then when they make it past the midfield, because they don't usually play through the midfield. So usually, they're able to bring Hatabo and Castagne into feet. Then from there, that's when they start the overload, the rotation. So for a period of about 5-10 minutes, they're rotating the ball, they're using the ball, they're switching the ball. So their ability to have, let's say, we could say on the left hand side, Zapata, Castagne, Furla, they come in, working the triangles, the overloads. Then Gomez also comes into the picture. That is, if he's not in the central referee's roam position where he usually stands. Then the ability to also stretch the pitch, then be able to stretch to switch onto the other side into Hertobor, then Ilicic, Gomez, and Duran also have the ability as well to move the ball. So what usually happens is they tackle not really the middle part of the pitch, but the edges of the box. So when you now have your players and overloads on the opposite side of the box, that draws a lot of players onto that side of the pitch, because you're trying to stay compact, you're trying to maintain the width between your lines and everything. So in that instant, they can now kill you in three ways. Usually the first is Zapata at the back post, good head of the ball. Then they have quality crosses of the ball, they thrive on that aspect. Then Zapata, I think for now, has already got 22 games, 15 goals, and just recently, over the weekend, yesterday actually, versus Juventus, strong on the ball, couldn't be wrestled. Then, because of his strength and work rate, that assist was by Gomez, who just added that assist to his name, making them 16. Previously 15 before the Juventus game, showing the quality that surrounds the pitch.
I get where you're coming from, but as most fans, most people, they really watch the Premier League, and most players who play in other top 5 leagues, which we know are players who are really linked to big moves, to these big Premier League teams. I never hear any Atalanta players getting linked by these big money moves, so it's really a surprise how they can be so good yet they don't have this famous tag around them. How do they manage to be as good as they are when they're really maybe nobody's a very harsh word, but they are a bit like nobodies when it comes to the football world?
I think we might want to take it back to maybe a couple of players. Let's say during from past events, he was at Cardiff City at some point.
And that didn't really work well, if I remember.
That didn't really work well.
Yes.
I think it comes down to having a squad where your coach is your greatest asset. We might maybe just to escape the bubble of Atlanta and just go maybe into Liverpool and Dortmund and look at Jurgen Klopp. Right now, Dortmund play good attacking football and everything, attract big players, big money spenders, as well. But that mainly comes from the fact that your coach is your drive. So being under Gasparini, I think, has helped a lot of players grow. And this is a all-star team, really, if you really want to look at it, maybe for stats and as well as quality, but they don't play for individual esteem, if I can call it. They go more for the what can we do for the team, So you have maybe Frela and Duran, workhorses in the midfield. They run for the team. Probably, usually, and I'll try to say this, they are usually a shadow of their own brilliance if they are within a team where usually it's struggling. Cardiff City recently relegated from the Premier League, not really doing well, losing games. Even come the championship, win a couple of games, but a streak of draws, it doesn't really help. So, being part of Atlanta now, where you have a coach and also people around you, where it's basically a team effort, strive for the team. You can see that usually based on the goals that they have scored, they can have 2 two individuals, or let's say two players, in an overloaded zone for crosses and everything. That shows willingness to run for the team, and defenders' top work rate. Limited mistakes and so forth.
Yeah, as you speak about Atalanta, they seem to be an attacking force. One may be worried when you want to watch them or, root for them. Are they any good when it comes to the defensive side of the game? Because you've really given us a lot of their movements when it comes to attacking and how they score goals. When it comes to a defensive standpoint in their league, are they anywhere where you can rank them and say they are really good defensively?
I would say yes. So based on stats, they actually have maybe scored 87 goals, but from the back as well, they've also managed to do quite well with 41 goals conceded this season, with only Juventus, which has the best defense in Italy right now. The old lady it is. They have managed to defend better, I think, on 39 goals. If you can help, maybe, I think, yes.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah. But basically what I can say is, if you notice many of their results, if it's not a clean sheet, many of their games are 7-1, 5-1, 3-2. They strive on always being the attacking team. So sometimes the reason why teams cannot even, we might even take it back to Juventus yesterday, if they're a good team, good midfield, also Matuidi on the opposite end, he can do some damage as well in the midfield. He also runs, but yesterday you could notice that it was Atalanta in the midfield, even in Juventus' final third, who were managing to, strike their stuff. Yesterday, you might look at players like Dybala, you might expect yourself to have, let's say, a chance at goal. Did have one, couple went wide, a couple, blocked, but it was more of Atalanta who managed to be so much on the press that even if Juventus want to get out, they're pinned in, in the second third, even in their defensive third, they can't get, or maybe sometimes have to hit it long if they want to maybe play the ball out. You have Atalanta players all over Juventus players and everything. Then even if you notice, centre backs hard on Dybala, he couldn't even get a touch on the ball. So it's that press that their formation allows them to have, where they can pin each and every player on the pitch, and every time that a firm pass or a pass is made into, they force the error basically in the second third, win it again. Then that ability not to rush when they win the ball back, it's usually more of a reset. So now they don't rush the play, they allow to come back to zero, come back to home, build the play up again, and then kill teams. I think that's from a defensive point of view. They say attacking is the best form of defense.
Yes, you're right. I seem to believe you, because that was one of the few Atalanta matches I watched as well. I've watched a lot of Juventus, and I have to say, they didn't look themselves when they were playing Atalanta. They were under so much pressure when it came to Juventus having the ball. So when reading about Atalanta, you would notice that all these positive results came when Gianpiero Gasparini, the coach, joined Atalanta. Before that, they were really struggling in mid-table. So if he has managed to improve them that much, why is it that maybe he is not talked about more, maybe outside of Italy, or talked about other big jobs? If you were one of the big bosses at some other big clubs, which club would you suggest him for? Maybe he goes to Madrid. I'm joking, I don't know, but give us a club where you think maybe he would fit after Atalanta doing such a good job.
I don't wanna, maybe look big-headed on this one, but for me, Tottenham, you found that just yesterday, 4-1 loss to Bournemouth. The previous game, draw. Maybe United and a couple, inconsistent performances for me. Generally, I think Tottenham can be maybe a good chance, for him, maybe to. I don't know now how Atlanta can move after that. Maybe the coach who can come in can maintain the same formation, or I don't know. But I think sometimes when a team jets off like this, it is already escaped that bubble of a mid-table team. Now they're challenging for the top. Man is gonna come in, sponsors, that snowball type of effect is gonna come in for Atalanta. Maybe going back to Tottenham, if you can have, maybe if you can just repeat the formation for Tottenham, if we can have Lloris in goal, then with current players that are there, Vertonghen maybe on the left centre back, then Alderweireld can be in the middle, Sanchez on the right centre back, then in the midfield currently you can go with the wings in the middle, Sissoko, then wing backs you have Davis, then on the right back you have Aurier. Then in the hole, I would go with. Who would you go with?
Lo Celso.
Oh, Lo Celso. There you go. I was about to think Dele Alli.
Oh, I've actually forgotten about him. He's still alive.
You're a major critic of Dele Alli. Then up front, it's the usual. You go with Kane and alongside Son.
Yeah, that would be something maybe one of us who fantasize a lot about football would want to see maybe in the near future, but I don't know if Daniel Levy is listening to us. Yeah,
we hope so.
Yeah, went off topic for a little while. Yeah, so now coming back to Atalanta, as we look at the players, these are players you've really spoken highly of. And again, no disrespect to Atalanta, but they seem to be, when you read about them, they seem to be that small club who are really punching above their weight. So maybe one or two of these players are really impressing because you look at their stats, they're really impressive. Some big clubs might be looking at them. Which players do you think might be able to get a big move to then go onto that bigger stage where maybe you want to prove to yourself that, yes, I can do it at Atalanta, but maybe when I've got 80,000 in the San Siro cheering me on for AC Milan, I'm going to keep performing or playing for, your Madrids, your Atleticos, and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. So I'm not really aware of maybe the youth development within Atalanta, but in general, they have, I would say, a pretty oldish squad. You have the youngest player sitting 24 years, within the starting lineup, actually. Then your oldest at 32. Okay, they could be a bit, oldish then, because if you look at your good strikers, maybe like the Colombian up front, Zapata, 29 years, you think, where could he possibly go? Where, possibly at 29, he's guaranteed for maybe 3 seasons, which could be enough, I don't know, maybe to prove yourself. But as football goes, you might want to wish for some players to stay. With this squad, just needs, let's say, come next season to just, pick off where they left off the last season. But of course, transfer rumors might start. Maybe for the younger players, maybe you could look at Castagne, the right wing back, or Hetobo, who's still quite young, 24. But lately, we have, maybe if you look at United, Greenwood is just 18 and is already, at a big club. So you wouldn't know what the age might do. But yeah, I would maybe go with Ilicic, but Ilicic is already 32 now. So I don't know.
I get where you're coming from. Maybe they might get through into like Ajax, so everyone
Ajax.
comes and buys your players. So
Yeah.
the final question now would be, when Atalanta play, I've really noticed that you watch a lot of Atalanta. So when they play, do you ever have a sense of doubt when they play that they're not going to impress you or they're not going to get the win?
I don't. What I can now say is maybe I've grown a bias for the way they play, but in general, if I can say, you can see what I can call fluid football. You know, from the defensive third into the second third into the midfield into the final third. There is that aspect of you don't know when, but you know the other team is gonna break down, it's gonna tire, they're gonna start scoring goals. And one thing about Atalanta, when they do score, they don't stop. They didn't continue. They didn't want to add goals.
They're not satisfied with 2-0 or something like that.
No. They are not. If you're a Betway fan, you maybe go with the overs, but you never know when that can come back to bite you. But you know, they are certain on the ball. The firm pass, which has become a very integral part of passing now, where the passes is high and low, into your feet. They play in between the lines. They're not afraid to take on a few players, Castagna, Atabo. They are not afraid to run at players, skillful, top of the shoulder, invert, overlap. They have it all, they're striving to be the best. We just hope that age won't catch up to the squad.
They're a little bit old.
Yeah, they're a little bit old, but not. I wasn't really thinking on the fact of them actually going to other clubs, but maybe now that they're this top club, maybe other players will aspire to maybe say, okay, now that the Italian league probably is growing, for a moment, the old lady, you knew 10 games before the season ends.
They're champions.
Juventus are already champions, But lately, now you find that they are just 7 points. Oh no, is it 7? It should be 7, yes, behind the log leaders, and that gives some form of motivation. Maybe even take it back to Leicester, if you remember, winning the league now, even at a level where they're not actually maybe fighting for the top 4. Okay, actually they are. They just fell out of it, but Tielemans, Madison, all those players, Perez, they have managed to come into the squad. And if they are talked about, or it comes to the mic, it'll always be the fact of Leicester once won the league, so they managed to then attract these players. And now they're actually doing quite well.
I agree with you.
The virus and the short break in the football kind of wanted a few teams, and Leicester might be included there, but
Okay, thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Chris. Without watching a lot of Atalanta, I think I've only watched like maybe 2 games, 2 Atalanta games in my life. But I already believe everything he said. He spoke so well. He definitely convinced me to root for Atalanta. And I was actually looking for a team in the Serie A. So I guess from now on, my team will be Atalanta in the Serie A, and I'll try to watch a lot of their games. We've come to the end of our discussion with Chris. Please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to get updates and more content from this channel. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.